Good evening, friends. I am Pramod. I am a faculty at Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, Dehradun. Today, we will have a lecture on geospatial technology for urban and regional planning. As such, when we talk about the urban areas, especially the remote sensing applications of urban areas, as such, while we compare the applications of remote sensing in other domains of natural environment, they have started long before, but the remote sensing applications in urban areas is relatively new. And especially when driven by advances in technology and societal needs, the professionals engaged in urban and regional planning, they are pursuing this subject with a very high interest, renewed interest. And especially I mentioned this is the quote which is given by the two books which is especially written on urban remote sensing applications. Now the premise what I build when I start my lecture, this is based on the fact that urban areas in India, they are changing, they are ever changing. When we compare the 2001 census data, the population of urban areas was 27.8, and when you go to the 2011 census, it has increased to 31.16%. So there is a substantial increase in urban areas. When you look at the decadal variation in urban population, since 1901, it is continuously increasing, and the increase in this changes in this urban areas, it is varying. For example, when you take the 1901 or beyond, during the 1951, the percentage increase was 41.4%, and continuously it is changing, and during the last decade, it was nearly 26.91%. So it is ever changing. In that sense, when you look at especially the census data 2011, what we have observed that 377 million persons, they are living in urban areas. And especially, this is the one fact which has come out with the 2011 census, that the absolute increase in the urban population is higher in rural, is higher as compared to the rural areas, and the level of urbanization is increased from 27.8%, as I told earlier, from 2011 census to the 31.1% 2011 census. There are some states where the urban population is quite high, for example, Maharashtra, and some are toward lower side, for example, the Sikkim state. And as we all know, that NCT Delhi has got the highest proportion of urban population. In some states, the urban population growth is more than 30%, for example, Sikkim, Kerala, Tripura states. In that sense, let us now get into how to describe the urban areas. As per Census of India, definition of urban areas is, which is characterized by, as we all know, higher population density and infrastructure in comparison to areas surrounding it. It may be cities, towns, or conurbations, excluding, as we all know, rural settlements, for example, villages and hamlets. In that sense, the Census of India describes the urban areas, all statutory places with a municipality, corporation, cantonment board, or notified town area committee, or where any place where meets following three criteria: a minimum population of 5,000, 75% of male working population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuits, and with a density of population of 400 persons per square kilometer. That means this is it also includes the city towns with a population of 1 lakh and above. In that sense, some urban units are described in various ways, as we see in the subsequent slides. They are described as statutory towns, census towns, urban agglomerations, and outgrowth. These statutory towns are the places where the municipality, corporation, cantonment board, and other they are in place. Census towns is the towns where the minimum population of 5,000 persons are there. And so, as we all know, as we see in the previous slide, that at 75% of main working population is engaged in non-agricultural pursuits, and with a population density of at least 400 persons per square kilometer. There's two more urban units are there, which is called as urban agglomeration. It is described as a continuous urban spread comprising one or more towns and their adjoining outgrowth, and outgrowth are the areas which are around the core city or town, such as well-organized places like railway colony, university, campus, and so on and so forth. But these are the areas basically they lie outside the limit of that town. In that sense, now when you look at the purpose of the urban planning, it is for the well-being of the people and optimal utilization of the resources within the urban area. It is for improving the quality of life, then also with proper administration, environmental production, and for rational use of land, because land is scarce, especially in urban areas. Some dimensions when we look at the urban areas and the importance of urban planning, because we all know the urban areas, they are contributing significantly in the urban planning. And urban areas, they're contributing nearly, it is projected that urban area populations contribute 7% India's GDP by 2020. But they provide the engines of growth, provide services, economics, as we all know, they are significant in terms of country's economy and scale. Then there are some issues, as we all know, about urban areas: lack of open space, inadequacy of infrastructure, overcrowding, slums are increasing, and as the population is increasing in the urban areas, there's lack of drinking water, sanitation, and then the quality of services and so on and so forth. Now, in that sense, the geospatial information, including the remote sensing, GIS, and other technology, they've got a larger say for the planning of available resources. When you look at the population census of 2001 and 2011, the urban towns, they were 5,161 in 2001, now they are into 7,935, which, as I explained earlier, which belongs to the other four categories. Now, as per the URDPFI guidelines, these are UDPFI and the URDPFI guidelines, they speak about the urban regional, the planned development and formulation implementation. This is a guideline which has been prepared at the behest of Ministry of Urban Development, where urban towns are described in six-fold classification, varying from the metro or the megapolis to the small towns where the population is less than 5,000. Now, where is the need for geospatial data in urban planning? Because, as I told earlier, during the last 50 years, urban population in India has increased nearly 2.5 times. India's population has increased nearly 2.5 times, but the urban India has increased nearly 5 times. And as we have seen in the previous slide, that 377 million Indians are living in 7,935 towns. and they are expected to increase. This census town is going to be expected to increase by 533 million by 2021. And with the increasing population, problems are also increasing. In that sense, the data forms the basis for urban planning. And remote sensing provides large quantum of data which can be using the GIS as a collection, distribution and management tool. So this data can be used for urban planning. Now, this particular slide, when we look at geospatial applications in urban planning, this is broadly speaks about the various domains, subdomains of urban planning, where the proven applications are there of the remote sensing and GIS-based database. When we talk about the urban planning, there are large scale base maps are available. We can also talk about the map updation of the asset or the infrastructure mapping, land use mapping, and various plans preparation, space use mapping, urban growth, urban sprawl, suitability assess, urban growth modeling. When we talk about the inclusive planning, we have got slums and the informal settlements where some government projects and otherwise also the study have been conducted to map and find out the problems in the slum areas. Under the urban government, the municipal reforms, several studies have been conducted here and elsewhere about the property taxation, municipal GIS, monitoring of urban encroachments, and urban cadastral studies. Under the urban environment, studies have been conducted. You got the urban green space, urban landscape, solid waste management. This is much about phenomena about the urban heat island, urban pollution, microclimate, or the solar potential of the health GIS. The technology is coming up about the close range photogrammetry or the terrestrial laser scanners, which uses LiDAR data for drawing the information, 3D information about the urban landscape, buildings, and how to conserve them. Under the urban design, various projects or studies have been conducted about the visualizing the urban areas or urban regeneration. Urban utility is the one major project which is especially taken shape after the NUIS project, that is the National Urban Information System, where for several studies, surface utility mapping have been conducted, and the transportation and other studies have been taken elsewhere. Urban hazard mapping analysis several studies are there, or about the micro-seismic studies, urban fire and urban flood. Now we go into the details of several of these studies. Now when we talk about the urban planning and what are the technological tools, as I told you, several series of satellites are available from the remote data sets. These are from the Indian remote sensing satellite series, or for the other satellites which have been launched by elsewhere in the world. The other technology about the photogrammetry, which are there from the aerial platform or from the digital platform for various sensors, where the opportunities is available using the stereo satellite photogrammetry. There's another technology which is now getting popular, is about the close range photogrammetry. Now another technology is about the LiDAR, as you might have seen in the previous lectures about the terrestrial laser scanner or the LiDAR technique. Using this data set, high resolution 3D data set can be built. These all data sets can be incorporated into the GIS for data integration, generation, integration, and analysis. Now, these data sets, sometimes we also require the assets mapping. This information can be derived using the global positioning system, which also facilitates the georeferencing of the high-resolution satellite data. Now, the technology which are also coming up is about the unmanned aerial vehicle or the ground penetrating radar. Now, what are the requirements for the urban mapping? Now, especially when we talk about the urban mapping, spatial resolution is, as we all know, very important, because we perceive the urban areas as especially in the high-resolution satellite data sets. Now, in this high-resolution satellite data sets, where it is possible to map the individual building footprints, but the interpretation skill of the interpreter is very important, where he also considers the various elements of image interpretation. For example, shape, size, texture, orientation, pattern, shadow, association, etc. Often the question arises about the land use versus land cover, especially in the urban areas. The land use is how we are utilizing a particular piece of land, and the cover is the building or the forest or other covers which are available in the areas. Spectral resolution is also important because often the panchromatic data will not yield the good interpretation results. That is why we resort to the multispectral data and the coming of technologies about the hyperspectral data to distinguish urban features. Now, the temporal decision is also important because the land use, because the urban sprawl, the land use transformation, that helps us to derive the information how the cities are changing, which direction the cities are moving, what is the growth, and then how to go to make the growth prediction. In that sense, the temporal resolution is very important. Radiative resolution is also important as it enhances the capability to distinguish features and interpretation. Now, in terms of spatial resolution, broadly, the categories have been devised where these are high spatial resolution, medium spatial resolution, and low spatial resolution. The high spatial resolution, it varies from 0.6 meter to 4 meter, where several series of satellites are available from world over and also from India. For example, the Cartosat series. Under the medium spatial resolution series, the various satellites are available from the India or from the elsewhere. The resolution varies from 4 meter to 30 meter. Under the low spatial resolution, where we can get a synoptic view, but the building details will not be available. In that sense, several series of satellites are available. This particular slide gives you the detail about the various high-resolution satellites. For example, Iconos, QuickBird, Cartosat, WorldView, or the GeoEye, the year in which it was launched, what is the pixel size, either it is panchromatic, MX stands for the multispectral, what is the swath, quantization is the radiometric level, where the stereo position is possible. And this is the list of some of the high-resolution satellites which are from Indian or from the world over. And for example, when you take the Resourcesat 1 and 2, it has got a LISFOR sensor with the 4 bands are available, and the spatial resolution is 5.8 meter. Or can you take the Cartosat 1 panchromatic data, the one as it is the single band where the stereo capability is also available, and the spatial resolution is 2.5 meter. Cartosat 2 has got, again, it is got a high spatial resolution sub-meter, where the resolution is nearly 0.8 meter. Or we take the other satellites, for example, the QuickBird and others, where the resolution of the QuickBird is 0.6 meter in the panchromatic mode, or in the multispectral, the resolution is 2.4 meter. Now, when we talk about in the context of the city and the urban development and planning, various levels of planning are there, which has got its linkage with the scale of mapping. When we coarse resolution, lower resolution satellite data, where the resolution is very coarse, where we can go to the mapping scale of 1:50,000 to 1:1 million, one can go for the macro level planning. When we talk about the medium resolution, as I told in the previous slide, the scale of mapping would be 1:10,000 to 1:50,000, then we have to go for the meso level planning. At the scale of 1:1,000 to 1:5,000, where one has to use the high resolution satellite data, now one can go to the very high resolution satellite data and the micro level planning, which will be the project special purpose or the project level planning. In the subsequent rows, you will see some of the examples which illustrates the utilization of the data sets for these plan maps preparation. Now, we'll talk about the planning systems framework. Several, as I told, several stages of planning are there, which varies from coastal to the perspective plan, to the regional plan, to the development plan, to the local area plan. This particular slide also speaks about the temporal domain, at what interval this planning should be handled. For example, the local area plan is very high resolution satellite data and at a very high scale. If the plan time frame would be from something like, because the changes are there very frequent, so we have to go for the 5 to 20 years. But when you take the RDP perspective plan, it varies from to something like 10 to 20 years. And this is the source of this guidelines from the URDPFI. The total plan guidelines, when you take it, the perspective plan is divided into two categories. One is the regional plan and the second is the development plan. And the development plan is subdivided into two categories, the local area plan and the special area plan. This plan and the third is the annual plan. This is the total plan guidelines are there, which is a scale and resolution dependent. Now this, when we talk about planning, or the data, in that sense, the data preparation is the one major issue. Department of Space has initiated some of the projects, and in the urban areas, one major project has been initiated, that is the NUIS, National Urban Information System. Now this, under this project, under the phase 1, already 142 towns, the database, large-scale urban geospatial database for various levels of urban planning, infrastructure development and e-governance has been prepared for at 10,000 scale for the land use and base layers. For the other layers, for example, the utility mapping has been conducted as the 1:2000 scale. Now this NUIS project contains total 16 layers, where the primary layers are 12, and the incorporated of the other ancillary layers, including the administrative layers, are 4. The primary layers contain the land use, physiography, geomorphology, geology, lithology, and so on and so forth. The administrative layers are the 4 ones: administrative, forest, settlement, city, town, and boundary planning. Now this data set, entire this data set has been put into the WebGIS and the platform of Bhuvan NRS. This is the website address has been given at the bottom of this slide. Now further, under the Bhuvan, which is the major geospatial initiative by the Department of Space, where under the Bhuvan, several kinds of database, including the urban, for the urban areas, have been stored. And in that sense, besides the various urban specific projects, also the high resolution satellite data images of 1 meter have been stored. And this shows the list of the cities where these data sets are available. You can kindly visit this website, which is given on the top of the slide, and as I told earlier, for the 210 cities, the data has been populated. Now look at some of the data which is available on the Bhuvan platform. This is the, as we all can guess, it is the Taj Mahal area, or this is the part of Delhi. This kind of details are available on the Bhuvan. Now we get into the details of the applications. Now, as I told earlier, various stages or the levels of planning are there. It may be varying from the perspective to the development planning, to zonal planning, or the project or specific planning. So accordingly, the data chosen also drives the level of details. So level details means when you go to the very coastal level, we'll be calling the built-up areas built-up only. When you go to the second level, the built-up area will be further divided into residential or the non-residential. Further, or it will be going into the, when you talk about the third level, the residential will be further subdivided into high rise, medium rise, and low rise. Under the fourth level, again the details will further increase. High rise again it will be sub-classified as apartments or flats. Similarly, the medium rise and low rise. Similarly, for the other categories of land use, other category of the land use in the urban and the surrounding regional areas, the category of the details or the details will also further increase. In the level 1, the area will be, for example, called as agriculture only. In the next stage, under the development planning, the further details will increase. It will further increase to the crop plant, fallow, plantation, so on and so forth. Similarly, under the forest, it further increase to the closed, open, and so on and so forth. For example, in the wastelands, the category will be further subdivided into salt-affected land, waterlogged areas, ravinous land, undulating land, with scrub or without scrub. Now, let us get into some of the applications. Now, this particular slide speaks about the space use. As you are seeing, the population in the urban areas are increasing. And it also may be, or you may be aware that it is projected that in 2030-50, nearly 50% of the urban population is going to stay in the urban areas. Accordingly, cities are rising in vertical dimension. In that sense, the development authorities also need to estimate the FAR. How this high-resolution satellite data can be utilized for space use mapping, it is based on two input data sets. First of all, two-dimensional, that is the building footprint, like you see here. Second information is the vertical dimension. What are the stories or levels of buildings for various building footprints? Accordingly, building footprints are further subdivided into G, G plus 1, G plus 2. Then using the total built-up area versus the plot area, one can calculate the FAR. And one can also see the extent of which, how many houses are there in a particular administrative boundary like ward, how many houses are there with a single story, how many houses are there with a single story, triple story, and so on and so forth. Now, this data is useful for the urban planners. Get to the next application, that's the population estimation. Now, normally the population estimation is done with the enumeration. But remote sensing data to some extent can also be utilized, like we see in this particular slide. It requires basically two methods have been advocated by the researchers. Where the first method is, it is performed at the local, regional or national level, where one requires only the counts of the individual dwelling units or the land area or the land use classification. In the second, one utilizes the high-resolution satellite data to find out the building footprints. First of all, the urban land use land cover map, then the building footprints or the dwelling unit map, and then finding out with this to some estimation that how many average number of persons per unit area must be available, and then one can estimate the approximate population in that particular administrative unit. One study has been carried out, and when compared with the actual result, the accuracy obtained was nearly 98%. Urban sprawl is another dimension of urban planning where the remote sensing data of high usage. Now we take one particular example, the Dehradun area where the urban population was, urban sprawl during the 1987 was limited extent. As the city has grown after the several social political reasons, subsequently the city is expanded. Now this expansion of the city has been studied using the remote sensing data, and the percentage growth of Dehradun urban area has been during the period 1987 to the 2008 has been studied, and one can also draw the rose diagram to find out which direction the cities are growing. Accordingly, the development units or the planners can formulate that how to control, how to draw the mechanism to provide the services, to provide the utilities, and to have the better administrative control. The urban land use transformation, this is a study which is conducted for the Lucknow city, where the temporal satellite data has been used to find out with the urban expansion how the land use, the changes is happening. For example, during this period 1973 to 1997, the agriculture to built up area, plantation to built up area, and other categories of the land use land cover change has been noticed. Urban expansion suitability analysis can also be basically the urban expansion is based on several favorable parameters, and these parameters would be land availability, slope characteristics, then accessibility, and then also proximity to the major services. Accordingly, we want to frame up several data integration models. Now, these data integration models will be linear, they will be non-linear. For example, it would be linear means just weighted based analysis, or it could be non-linear based on some decision rules. Accordingly, one can find out several areas based on surrounding existing city, how which are the area which are highly suitable, which are moderately suitable, which are marginally suitable. If at all they are suitable, if there are any limitations, any constraints are there, where constraints A, B, C, D, they speaks about the constraint of topology, slope, land use, land cover, or accessibility. According to this data is going to help the planners to find out suitable areas for urban expansion. Now, urban information system is also constitutes one information domain of urban planning. Now, within the urban area, several kinds of utility and services are available. To plan and to optimize, to find out the gap areas, this technology can always be used using the field-based techniques and also with the remote sensing data sets. One can find out what is the electricity availability, what is the extent of the built-up area, what is the extent of the various urban utilities available, which are the gap areas. This is one example where the water utility in the urban areas have been analyzed. First of all, the water map has been plotted. After the water map is plotted, the water supply lines have been mapped. OST has been mapped, and the areas served by various OST have been found out using the ground information. When compared with the ward level information or the city level information, based on some standard norms, that what is the quantum of water required, one can find out when multiplying with the per capita demand. This is the total million liters per day is the demand of the city. And then the total supply in the city will be the total capacity surface source, and subsurface source is this much. That means the demand supply gap of the city is this much. Accordingly, this can be estimated at the city level as a whole or further at a ward level. And accordingly, there is opportunity to find out which area of the city are facing the water crunch or otherwise. Urban heat island is the phenomena we are noticing, especially with the growth of the city. Now, this urban heat island, the satellite remote sensing with the thermal bands gives us the opportunity to map the areas which are getting the urbanization. Now, when you look at the urban heat island profile, what is happening? When you look at the some land use and the temperature, we see here that as the area remains in the rural area, the temperature map is lower. But as it experiences urbanization, the temperature, because of the heat dissipation from the buildings or from the human beings, heat dissipation increases. And accordingly, this phenomena can be mapped as we see for the study area. And then one can find out for various parts of the city which are experiencing the higher temperature or the lower temperature. Now, this phenomena, when we overlay with the ward boundary, we can find out where the urbanization is happening at higher pace, where it is happening at lower pace, and then further relationship between the temperature with the vegetation density, with the vegetation parameters, with the land use land cover, or with the urbanization trend can be mapped. Now, as we call the initial slides where I said the remote sensing has got 4 domains, that is the spatial, spectral, temporal, and radiometric. With the spectral domain, the one more technology which is coming up, but it is its usage is limited for the sense that because of the higher resolution and hyperspectral data availability for the Indian region. But if the data set is available, one can find out based on the rooftop material, one can find out that how the rooftops, various kind of rooftops are putting the signature on the satellite data, and accordingly, based on the roof type, one can map the part of the city. Now, this data is going to be helpful for the betterment of the urban land use land cover, for the land use land cover classification, for identifying the slum areas, and for several reasons. So this is the application of the hyperspectral remote sensing. Now, one more segment of the urban remote sensing is the transportation. Now, this study has been conducted to assess the areas in the city which were based on the road geometry or the blind corners which are prone to accident. And accordingly, part of the city has been mapped, junction points have been mapped, and then further, based on several properties of the junction, it may be multiple junction, it may be of the built up area, traffic congestion, or the passenger car unit, areas where the probability of accident is higher, that has been mapped. Now the one more dimension which is coming up, can you recall the initial slide, that is the 3D modeling. And this 3D modeling is made feasible because of the LiDAR technique and the close range photogrammetry, and also the satellite photogrammetry. This is the application which uses the high resolution satellite data. High resolution satellite data, cartoscope and stereo data has been used to map some part of Delhi area, and then using the building footprints and using these building footprints and the satellite stereo data into the three-dimensional environment of the satellite digital photogrammetry, building heights have been estimated and compared with the ground results. Further, this is the one application, but the constraint is this is not the automated procedure. When we talk about the other techniques and also the better accuracy, the LiDAR data gives us the better opportunity. In the LiDAR data, and especially from the airborne sensor, one can map based on point clouds, one can map the heights of the building footprints derived from the 2D data. Then combining these two data, one can draw the 3D visualization of the city area. And this application, this data has got application. And on the bottom of the slides, I'm showing you one of the applications where some part of the Delhi city, we have conducted an experiment where based on the high-rise buildings, the morphometry of the buildings, how it is playing the role with respect to the wind flow. And now the morphometry of the building can be simulated using the building footprint, as I told earlier, and also the 3D data which is derived from the LiDAR technique or from the halogen satellite data. When these two things put together, now with some assumption, and then when the winds are moving in the urban areas which are going to experience the higher wind speed or which are going to lesser wind speed, which are creating a block which are otherwise, that can be modeled. This is another example of the urban hazard, where for some urban area with the increasing flood levels, the areas which are getting submerged or may get affected because of the higher discharge, that has been modeled. Models and data sets are available which uses the land use land cover of the catchment area which is surrounding the urban areas, and the channel properties, slope, and then using the methods. These methods may be rational method or the empirical method, and then it may be based on some return period or the time interval, and one can find out if this particular quantum of discharge is available at this particular return period or this 100 period. Accordingly, one can map the quantum of the land use land cover that will get affected in the urban areas or surrounding the urban areas. Now this, I get into the regions because especially with the coming years, the urban plans, the putting more emphasis on the regional planning, because the urban areas are ever increasing, and if it is increasing, it is based on the surrounding areas surrounding the urban areas. Now these regions play a larger role in the total urban and regional planning, but these regionals are term which is not used only for the urban areas. is this regional planning is also used elsewhere. It may be a agricultural region planning, resource region planning, or in the urban areas it will be the city region planning or the planning regions. What are the regions? Regions are the portion of Earth's surface having homogeneous physical conditions. It may be a single feature or compact depending on the criteria for delineation, and may be considered for a few villages or a number of countries. For example, when we talk about the SAARC is also a region. Now, what are the characteristics of the region? The region is basically the area of the surface with the distinct characteristics from surroundings, and it will have a clear-cut boundary. It may be, for example, Ganges. It is a kind of region. It has surrounded by the other regions of the catchment of the other rivers. It may be having a name. Image means name. People will giving a name to it. And region boundaries may change over time. It may be due to urban sprawl or the satellite towns coming up or the nested belt coming up in the area. Now the three basic terms are there as compared to regional planning. One is the core region. For example, Delhi NCT is the core region, which is the core of the NCR. There may be peripheral region. It is distant from the core, but it is where the attention is lesser. Because of this lesser attention, it may have inferior infrastructure and trade. Third is the maladjusted region. It is the region of industrial decline. Basically, it also falls in the periphery, but it will have lesser infrastructure or the economic activities. Now, there is a need for regional planning. Why? For the reason that it provides the policy guiding framework about local and plans. It facilitates, because our development planning cannot remain alone in the urban areas. There has to be a national and regional socio-economic integration. It provides a source of mobilization of human and social resources. It also induces a strong sense of regionalism. And then some functional problems are also specially manifested. For example, problems of urban regions are because of the rapid urbanization, urban sprawl, or population growth. There are problems of displaced into rural areas which may suffer because of economic malaise. Now, this regional planning, it will be, as I told, it is at varying scale. Now, this varying scale will be at micro level, meso level, at macro level. At a national or sub-national level, the boundary would be state or district. At a meso level, it will be state, intra-state or regional. At a micro level, there will be district, taluk, or block boundary, or whatever. Then, basically, regional is in terms of in the country-specific domain, it is the sub-national planning. It is also a linkage between the local planning and the national planning. And with the regional planning, the resources available in that area, resources produced by human efforts, all they are integrated. And recall that all the metro cities, they have got the regional planning, or the national. For example, Delhi has got the national capital region. Now, as I told earlier, the regional planning is not alone in the context of the urban areas. It also constitutes other segments of the earth surface. It may be the hilly region planning, desert area planning, river valley planning, west. For example, take a typical example. This is the West Ghats regional plan, or for any watershed specific, that is the watershed regional plan. Take for example, India has been subdivided, as you all know. India has been divided into 16 agroclimatic regions based on biophysical characteristics, agricultural resources, soil resources, and other allied resources. It has been divided into 16 agroclimatic subregions. Or take the world over, based on the meteorological characteristics and the other geophysical characteristics, it has been divided into the polar region, temperate region, or the arid region also here, and then tropical region or Mediterranean region, or the mountains. To go to the regional planning, there will be what are the data requirements? Because when you are taking to the region as a large area, of course, you require several data sets. These data sets will be the resource data, demographic data, agroeconomic data, socioeconomic data, or infrastructure data. In the resources data, we'll have typical information about the location, land use, cropping patterns, soil, water, mineral resources, so on and so forth. Demographic data will arise from the census information. Agroeconomic data will be coming from the crop and, for example, it will be about the crop and irrigated areas, agriculture production, land holding, or the livestock population. Socioeconomic data will be about, because after this planning has to be for the people, that means beneficiary of various schemes and programs of development basically provides the linkage framework. And then finally the information about the infrastructure, the availability and level of various facilities will be also be integrated. When we talk about whether it is urban planning or the regional planning, it will speak about the present state of development, what it is now. Then what is the projected need of the plan period, because the city has grown, or the watershed areas facing some problem, or the mountainous region, any particular area needs attention, and then that means we are identifying the gap areas. So now we address the gap areas and then go for the projected needs of the plan period. These are the, as I partially described in the previous slide, what are the data sets which are available. Now this domain becomes multidisciplinary. For example, here not only the urban planner but the other multi-disciplinary aspects of remote sensing be utilized. And using the remote sensing data sets, one can derive the land use, land cover, forest map, soil map, or the hydrogeometrical map, agricultural map, and so on and so forth. We'll be taking some examples about the regional planning in the subsequent slides, but the question arises at this moment because this kind of data set when it is required, where are the sources? Now I'll be talking about the satellite remote sensing or especially the geospatial technology driven initiatives by the Department of Space. And thus this initiative, Department has launched one major project. The project is named as Space-Based Information Support for Decentralized Planning, where it is providing the large scale 1:10,000 scale database for the entire country. And already the data sets about the seamless mosaics of the ortho data using the Cartosat 1 and list has been generated and populated on Bhuvan. Subsequent exercise is ongoing. Basically, there are three components in this project. First is the database generation and organization, then involvement of the people, that is people's participation. Third is the outreach. That means this has to be utilized by the Panchayati Raj institutions, PRIs, and also the citizens. This data set, because now we are going for the local level planning as well, it also requires the assets. Now this asset, with the help of the state remote sensing centers and other participating institutions, total 340 kind of data assets, which are broadly put in 5 categories: natural resource assets, productive assets, civic and community assets, and human resource assets, and the governance assets. They are also planned to be populated into the Bhuvan Panchayat platform. And this shows for these categories what are the different kind of assets. And the details are available into the Bhuvan platform. I will show you the website where this data set will be available. As I told that Bhuvan is the major geospatial initiative. It is the gateway to Indian Earth observation data products and services, where data visualization, data archive, or the thematic data or the geoprocess data are made available. This data set is available in the Bhuvan platform, and this is the website linkage which is given here. Now, for the regional planning, the data set is also available from the Bhuvan Panchayat. This is the further initiative by the Department of Space, where, as I told earlier, the 1:10,000 level thematic data and assets data are made available for the decentralized planning. Now this data and also there are other information which is available from other platforms. The BICS platform, which is the Biodiversity Information System, or the NMS portal, or the about the disaster from the DMS DSC portal, or about the hazards. These data sets or about the meteorology and oceanography data sets are also available. These data sets can be used for the regional planning. Now we get into the some of the case studies. Now this case study is talking about the watershed development planning, where watershed boundary surrounding the Pithoragarh town in the Uttarakhand district of Uttarakhand state has, this is the urban area and this is the surrounding watershed boundary, where several thematic database has been prepared. This is the watershed boundary. Now this is required because when you go for the planning, we have to find out the vulnerable areas. Now these vulnerable areas in terms of land and water resources, they have to be prioritized. Now when we go for the prioritization, one has to draw the watershed and micro watershed plan and boundaries, so that based on level of vulnerability of the areas, one can choose the area in the phases and do the treatment. And the other data sets are slope characteristics, land use, land cover, soil hydromorphology, and about the other biophysical characteristics. Once this data set has been prepared, then one can get into the GIS domain, where one can draw the decision table. And this decision table, when you take it, you have to keep one variable as constant. And in this case, normally the land use, land cover is kept at constant. And for each pocket of the land use, land cover, its corresponding slope aspect, altitude, geomorphology, soil, or management practices, they are studied. And if that for that pocket of the category of the land use, land cover, recommendations are given. For example, take one of the first row. This is the forest land. When we talk about the other categories, cultural area without trees, then accordingly based on thematic database, one can go for the agroforestry or agrohorticulture. Similarly, DCM rules have been framed, and then land resource action plan has been suggested for management of forest land or for the management of cultural areas or management of the wastelands. Similarly, the DCM rules have been framed for the water resource development under three broad categories, that is the management of the surface water resources, groundwater exploitation, or the slope protection. So this is one example where the watershed based planning exercise has been conducted. Now we get into the another domain, that is the planning of the regional areas surrounding the major megapolis. This is an example of the National Capital Region planning. This National Capital Region surrounding the NCT, constituting 1483 square kilometer area. It also has several towns surrounding the Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan states, and total area is 33,000 square kilometer. Now this has got 7 metro centers, 11 regional centers, or the counter magnet area. Now the planning has been done because after all for the national capital territory, the areas which are serving in terms of services, their development is also important. In that sense, the planning has been conducted for regulation of the land use policies or the proposals. First of all, using the remote sensing data, the land use, land cover map has been to prevent the ribbon type of development and To prevent the relevant type of development, some policies has been devised and its periodical monitoring has also been framed up, and also to conserve the environment, several the rules have been framed up. For the agricultural protection of agricultural areas surrounding the notified zones, the regional land use policies and package practices have been addressed. One more issue which is now getting very popular is getting the buzzword is the smart city. Now in this context where the urban planning has to play a larger role, elsewhere in the world several successful examples of the smart city are there. Basically, smart city is nothing but a developed urban area that creates sustainable economic development and high quality of life by excelling in the multiple key areas. That is economy, mobility, environment, people, living and environment. And you to frame up the acronym of the smart city, it is the sustainable solution, management of the resources efficiently, active citizen participation, research and development, transport efficiency, communication network, infrastructure, technological enhancement, and overall yielding better quality of life, where it will have smart economy, smart mobility, smart environment, smart people, smart living with smart governance. This is how all it is the gambit of the smart city. I conclude my lecture at this moment, and for your benefit I am giving you some references. The first reference is the e-book available where you can download the urban application, the satellite remote sensing and GIS. There are two popular other books are there, which is about the urban remote sensing, which is by the Kihao Wang, or from the urban remote sensing, Jiang Hu. About the urban and regional plan formulation guidelines, the URDPFI guidelines, which is given, one can download the PDF and website linkage is given. Thank you very much.